Hello, I'm Glenn. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about adding color to your pyrography using acrylic paint and watercolor paint. These two samples here, this one was done with acrylics and this one was done with waters. But the acrylic is simply done by just a little dab of acrylic paint, watering it down. I'll go over the different paints that I like to use, but you can use whatever you prefer. So this is my current palette that I use. These are Winsor & Newton's watercolors. I use the professional brand, and they're a little bit more pricey than, your children's set here. The children's set, could run, under $10 for this whole set here with all these colors. Each color can range anywhere from $12 to $25 depending on what color it is. And they, change from there. And the size of the tubes that I get, that's around $12 and $25, is a 0.047 ounce or 14 milliliters. And with watercolor, what you need is you want to have two separate water wells. This way, as you're cleaning the brushes, dirtiest water, that's when you get all the paint off, and you do a second rinse into the other one. They'll both kind of get dirty and everything. What I like to use to wipe off the brush is a simple little wristband. It's great. What you can do is, after it's done, you just wash it and it's good. These go for, a set of 4 of them. I think I got for like $4. Actually, no, there's 6 of them I got for $6. It's basically $1 each. And these here, also about $1 each you can get. And the reason why you need a little spray bottle is before you start with your watercolors, you want to give it a nice little spritz to prime the paint, get it nice and wet. You can use the paint straight out of the tube, but you end up using more of the paint that way. So I like to buy the tube paint, and I pour the paint into my own wells and get it set up that way. It's a little bit of a pricier way to go, but I also do watercolor paintings. And so the Winsor & Newtons, I find, me personally, that they're the best paint out there. I know there's other paints out there that are just as good. It's just, this is my own preference. I've always worked with Winsor & Newton. I like the way they are. The pigments are great. The children's sets, they're great. They'll get by and everything, but I find that with the children's sets, they don't blend very well. The colors aren't quite as pure. It's not meant for any type of professional work. It's what it is a children's set. It's under $10 for all these colors here. So if you are serious, I would go with more of a professional paint. There's a lot out there. And with the acrylic paints, what I like to use is the Liquitex. Winsor & Newton also makes the acrylic paint. You can get them as well, but these are a little bit cheaper, and they work just great for me. So these tubes can run anywhere from like $8 to $12 per tube, and it's four US fluid ounces or 118 milliliters, and it lasts a long time. This is a acrylic medium that kind of keeps the acrylic a little wetter longer. It's great for when you're doing acrylic painting and you want to kind of give it that oil painting effect, where with the oil paints, they don't dry quickly, so you can do a lot of blending. This will slow down the drying process. You don't really have to do that when you're doing what we're going to talk about, but if you're doing a regular acrylic painting, I find this does help a little bit more. It does slow down the drying process. The brushes that I use for watercolors and the acrylics are basically the same. So with the smaller paintings and everything, this is a number 14. So I go from anywhere from a 1 up to a 14. Obviously with the bigger paintings that I do, the bigger the brush. So you always want to have your large areas with the bigger brush, and when you go into your fine detail work, that's when you go with the smaller brush. So just think about large areas, big brush, small little areas, small little brush. These I love because they're great. They're travel brushes. They're made by Fumi. These are all Fumi brushes, but this is great because it goes right in and there's little holes so it doesn't grow any mold on the sable brushes. That's another thing you want. You really want to have good brushes. They'll last a little bit longer, and it does help with the flow of paint, the better the brush. So when you're buying brushes, you know, you're going to be spending a little, you know, at least over $5 per brush. They do go up to $20, $40, $50. I don't have any of those. This set here I got, it was for a set of 3, it was a little over $20. I bought a couple of them to make up what I needed. This whole full set here I think was about $30. There's a lot more brushes that came with it. But without further ado, I'm going to start showing you the process that I had to make these both. Like I said, this one was done with all watercolors. This one was done with acrylic. With the watercolor, like I said in my other videos, you should have some sort of fixative on it. Again, not a water-based fixative because you could lift the color. That's the thing about watercolors is like this palette here, you know, it'll dry out. And to reactivate the paint, you just give it a little bit of a spritz with the water, or you dip your brush into the water and you want to gently roll your brush into the paint. You don't want to stab it. I know in the video it's going to look like I'm stabbing it, but I'm actually going nice and easy. It'll save on your bristles, and you can actually see that it picked up a little bit of the paint as I just touched it very slightly. So I'll make sure, but the watercolors, I don't have to worry about washing this right away because as soon as I get it wet, the pigment will reactivate and I'll clean it right off. With the acrylic paint, not so much. Once this dries, it is dry. So don't leave the paint on the brush because it'll just dry out the brush and ruin it. You can't get the paint off once it's dry. With the acrylic paint that I used on here, it's very watered down. The little tiny paint goes a long way as you water it. And with this, you don't have to put a fixative on it, but you can. And this one you can use a water-based or non-water-based fixative on here, and you can brush it on because once this paint is dry, you're not going to lift the paint off. Just note that whenever this gets wet, the paint will lift. All right, so without further ado, let's get into me painting. Okay, so starting off with a little bit of a light wash. I'm not really sure of the colors that I'm going to be using, but I was thinking of a wintry type of feeling since it is winter. So then I decided I was going to add this little sunset, and that red was crazy powerful, but I was able to tone it down with a little bit more water mixed into it. That's the great thing about watercolor paint is that if you get a little too heavy with the pigment, like I'm showing here, you just add a little bit more water to the brush and you kind of start lifting that paint out. You want to try and work that a little bit faster. Obviously, this is sped up, um, but I'm pulling the paint off before it soaks and stains the wood too much when I get a little too crazy with the color. Um, you know, the yellow, it worked out great right away. And then you know, there was something I needed to add, so I wanted to put like a little bit of a mountain in there. I know I didn't burn that in, but I think a nice little hint of it using the paint was going to work very well. Obviously, you know, when I first started doing it, it was a little too crazy, but then I kind of went in with other colors and worked it out, and you know, I made it work at the end, which you will see as we start getting closer to it. Okay, so this is pretty much how it came out. I think it came out pretty cool. Very colorful. Hope you like this one. All right, let's get into the acrylic painting of it. All right, so what I did there was I had a little test piece that I made sure that I had my consistency of the acrylic paint watered down. As you can see, you want to try and get it as watered down as much as possible. So get that little test strip and, just add a lot of water. It takes a very little bit of paint. And you can see it's creating the same effect that the watercolor paints has. So it works very well. It is possible to do it this way. I like it. It's really cool. And so I'm going more towards that original idea of that wintry look. So I'm doing a lot of blues and grays. So what I'm doing is I'm mixing my blue with a touch of black and white. And I'm doing the same thing with adding that little mountain fade just to match it up with the other one. Um, and I think this one's working very well. I'm really loving the way this looks. You'll see at the end the outcome, how it came out. So right now I'm just really working in all the colors. And that's the final outcome. I hope you like it, and I hope you like the video. Please, if you want to see more videos, uh, like, subscribe to my channel, and you can also follow me on all my socials at Turning Trunks. Okay, hope you enjoyed, and see you next time.